Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was born on October 29, 1938, in Monrovia, Liberia, into a family that embodied both privilege and challenge. Her father, Yamali Carney Johnson, was a notable figure in Liberian politics, remembered as the first indigenous Liberian to serve in the national legislature. This was remarkable at a time when politics in Liberia was dominated by Americo-Liberians, descendants of freed African American slaves who had settled in Liberia in the 19th century and largely controlled the government and economy. Her mother, Martha Dunbar, was of mixed Gola and German heritage and worked as a schoolteacher. Ellen grew up in a household where education, discipline, and resilience were emphasized. She was one of several siblings, and while her brother and sisters shared in the benefits of their father's achievement, they also saw up close the deeply stratified and unequal society in which they lived. From a young age, Ellen showed signs of being ambitious and determined. She was sent to the College of West Africa, a prestigious high school in Monrovia run by Methodist missionaries. The environment at the school was competitive, but Ellen excelled in her studies, displaying both sharp intellect and leadership qualities. Her father's death when she was still young was a painful loss, but her mother remained steadfast in ensuring her children continued their education. Ellen grew up acutely aware of Liberia's political and social inequalities, an awareness that would later fuel her drive for reform and justice. At the age of 17, Ellen married James Sirleaf. By her early 20s, she had 4 sons, and balancing the demands of family life with her academic and personal ambitions became one of her earliest tests of endurance. The marriage was troubled and eventually ended in separation. Ellen's struggle as a young mother raising 4 children while seeking to educate herself deeply influenced her later empathy for women and marginalized groups. Her pursuit of education took her abroad. She studied accounting at Madison Business College in Wisconsin, later moving on to the University of Colorado, where she earned a bachelor's degree in economics. Her hunger for knowledge and determination to equip herself for leadership did not stop there. She gained admission to Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government, where she earned a Master of Public Administration in 1971. Harvard was a turning point in her life. Surrounded by future leaders and policy makers from across the globe, she developed her economic expertise, learned modern governance practices, and shaped her philosophy on development and democracy. Her time at Harvard was also marked by hardship. As a single mother, she had to juggle academics, limited finances, and responsibilities toward her children, who were at times cared for by family back in Liberia. This period forged her resilience and discipline, which would become hallmarks of her later leadership. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's professional career began with civil service. She was appointed as Assistant Minister of Finance in Liberia under President William Tolbert. In this role, she quickly distinguished herself with her strong grasp of economic issues, commitment to reform, and unwillingness to accept inefficiency. Her boldness in questioning entrenched practices gained her respect but also made her controversial in a political system resistant to change. She later left Liberia to take up positions with international institutions, working with the World Bank and later Citibank, where she became Vice President of the African Regional Office in Nairobi, Kenya. These roles broadened her understanding of African economies, giving her a continental perspective on development challenges such as poverty, underinvestment in education, and mismanagement of natural resources. She also served with the United Nations Development Programme, further cementing her reputation as an accomplished technocrat. Her career took a dramatic turn in the 1980s after the military coup led by Samuel Doe. Sirleaf became an outspoken critic of Doe's authoritarian rule, which was marked by corruption, repression, and ethnic tensions. Her defiance led to her imprisonment on more than one occasion. She was beaten and threatened but refused to abandon her calls for democracy and accountability. Eventually, she was forced into exile, spending periods abroad while continuing her advocacy for political reform in Liberia. Even in exile, she worked with international organizations, using her positions to highlight the plight of Liberia and push for democratic change. Liberia's descent into chaos during the civil wars that began in 1989 brought even greater urgency to her activism. The brutal conflict, fueled by warlords like Charles Taylor, devastated the nation. Sirleaf was at times accused by opponents of having initially supported Taylor, a charge she admitted with regret, clarifying that she had underestimated his ruthlessness. When Taylor's brutality became evident, she became one of his fiercest critics. She ran for the presidency in 1997 but lost to Taylor in elections that were marred by fear and manipulation. Despite this setback, she did not retreat. She remained active in the opposition, continuing to call for justice and reconciliation even as the war consumed the country and caused unimaginable suffering. When Liberia's second civil war ended and Charles Taylor was forced into exile, Johnson Sirleaf seized the opportunity to return to frontline politics. In 2005, she ran again for president in Liberia's first post-war elections. This time, she won, defeating the football star George Weah in a closely contested vote. Her victory was historic. She became the first elected female head of state in Africa. Her election symbolized not only a new beginning for Liberia but also a breakthrough for women in leadership worldwide. As president, she inherited a country in ruins. Infrastructure was destroyed, the economy was in collapse, institutions were weak, and trust among Liberians was shattered. She made economic recovery her priority, securing debt relief worth billions of dollars from international creditors and re-establishing Liberia's credibility in global markets. She attracted foreign investment, particularly in mining and agriculture, while pushing reforms aimed at transparency and accountability. She also invested in education and healthcare, and began rebuilding roads, schools, and hospitals. Her leadership on the global stage gained attention. She became a respected African voice in international forums, advocating for debt relief, gender equality, and peace building. In 2011, she was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, along with fellow Liberian activist Lema Bowie and Yemeni activist Tawakkul Karman, for their work in advancing women's rights and promoting peace. The Nobel Prize elevated her international stature, making her a symbol of resilience and progress. Her presidency, however, was not without controversy. Despite her efforts, corruption remained entrenched in Liberia. Critics accused her government of tolerating nepotism and failing to dismantle old patronage networks. The Ebola outbreak in 2014 was another stern test of her leadership. Initially criticized for a slow response, her government later coordinated effectively with international partners to contain the epidemic. The crisis highlighted both Liberia's fragility and Sirleaf's ability to rally support and manage crises under immense pressure. Johnson Sirleaf stepped down in 2018 after completing 2 terms, respecting constitutional limits and overseeing the country's first peaceful transfer of power in more than 70 years. This alone was a milestone in Liberia's political history, signaling the country's progress toward stability and democracy. Even after leaving office, she remained active internationally, founding and participating in organizations that promote leadership, women's empowerment, and good governance. Her legacy is complex but profound. She is celebrated as a trailblazer for women in leadership, a reformer who guided her country through its most difficult times, and a voice for justice and peace in Africa. At the same time, she faced criticism for not fully eradicating corruption or ensuring equitable growth. Nevertheless, her life embodies resilience, courage, and the pursuit of progress against all odds. From her beginnings as a young girl in Monrovia who observed the inequalities of her society, to her struggles as a young mother pursuing education abroad, to her imprisonment under dictatorships, exile, and eventual rise to the presidency, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's story is one of determination and transformation. She became not only a leader for Liberia but also an icon for women around the world. Her life demonstrates that even in the most difficult circumstances, persistence and vision can bring change, and her legacy will endure in the history of Africa and beyond.